Hi guys, hello, and welcome to the Project Lowe's Sunday night self-care session. If you can hear me, please give me some comments or some thumbs up, because otherwise I don't know if you can actually hear me. Hello. I'm just going to wait a while until some of you arrive so that I can make sure that you're here. Tonight's topic is how to communicate consciously to create lasting relationships. I hope you saw the notes that I did before. Hi Maureen, how you doing? So, communication. It's one of those things that just, it gets talked about so much, and yet so few people really truly understand the core of communication. And also, there's communication and then there's communication, because communication can just be talking all day long, but conscious communication is an entirely different ballgame. The reason why conscious communication is so important is something that I need to explain to you with the help of my favorite two toys, which is Olivia the owl. Meet Olivia the owl. And this lovely little critter is my little crocodile called Clarissa. Okay, the reason why the owl and the crocodile are important, because they are the fundamental two different ways that you can respond to something. So the crocodile, and I know one of my friends loves this part, the crocodile is the most reptilian part of your system. So I want you to imagine your spinal cord that goes all the way up your spine and into the base of your neck. That is the most ancient part of who you are. That's your reptilian brain. That's your fight or flight. It is absolutely laser sharp quick. And usually what it does is exactly what the crocodile does. It is rips your head off. Well, rips the other person's head off. So Clarissa the crocodile is the part of you that goes rah, 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 when something comes into your sphere of attention, and all of a sudden Clarissa the crocodile will rip the head off. Unfortunately, though, a lot of people misunderstand the crocodile. The crocodile is the most ancient part of you, and its job is to keep you safe. Its job is there to make sure that you don't cross the street when there's traffic. It makes sure that you don't touch the plate when it's hot. So it's very, very handy when it comes to keeping you safe. But unfortunately, in relationships, and especially in communication, oh, sorry, that's wobbling the camera there. In communication, the crocodile is just bad news. Because if you react from your crocodile self and you start snapping or attacking the other person, guess what happens? They will simply react with their crocodile, because they can't help it. If your crocodile comes out, their crocodile comes out, and you basically have a bloodbath. I want you to think that the crocodile is the most ancient part of who you are. It's the thing that very quickly attacks and reacts. So we're not upset with our crocodile, because it's the part of you that keeps you safe, keeps you alert, makes sure that you don't do silly things to harm yourself. But it is also the most reactive part of who you are. And that's good for safety, but that is bad news for relationships. Alrighty, here is Olivia the owl, the beautiful, beautiful owl. And what does the owl do? The owl rises above the situation, sees it from your higher self, and then is able to make an overview decision. So it has the higher perspective, and so actually it sits in this part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, and it has the ability to respond. So if there's one part that you remember from this live tonight is that there is a difference between reacting and rising above the situation, seeing it from the higher perspective, and responding. So conscious communication falls into the category of responding rather than reacting. And again, if we look at it as the problem with reacting is, if you let out your crocodile, the other person has no choice but to respond with their crocodile, and then there will just be a bloodbath. What you want to be doing is go into a conversation, a difficult situation, conversation that you have to have from the perspective of the wise owl. Now, the big question is always, how do you move from the reactive crocodile to the wise owl that rises above the situation and responds from a calm and conscious place? Well, number one tip of the day is your breath. When you are in the crocodile, you will have shallow breath. You will have a kind of internal rage, and that is going to drive your crocodile. So the most important thing, if you are in a difficult conversation, number one, come back to a place of breath. So what I do is I crunch down on my jaw, and I just don't let my jaw open, and I make sure that I just breathe in and out through my nose. If I cannot maintain that calm, higher perspective when I'm in a conversation with somebody, what I need to do is say, look, you've triggered something in me. I just need to leave the room for 5 minutes. I'll be back. So please don't leave heated conversations without telling the other person where you're going, because guess what? If you walk out of the room just by going, I need to breathe, their crocodile is going to follow you, and the whole bloodbath is just going to happen in another room. So what you do is you chunk down on your gnashes, your crocodile gnashes, breathe in and out through your nose to make sure that you rise into the wise owl. If you can't do it in the situation, please remove yourself to another room. Just say, hey, you've just said something that triggered me. I need to get back into my calm. I'm just going to go take 5 minutes. I will be back to discuss it. If you're so triggered in your crocodile that you know you're going to be angry as heck for the next 3 days, then at least say, I need to step out of the room now to come back to calm and come back to center. I will continue this conversation with you Wednesday or something. Don't leave without giving the other person reassurance and telling them what you're doing, because their crocodile will just follow you. So the first thing that we need to talk about, that we have now, about conscious communication, is that conscious communication is only possible in the owl, in the higher perspective of your prefrontal cortex. Because if you are in the very snappy crocodile of your reptilian brain, it's only reaction. There is no responding. Then the next thing that we have to do, and I have to check whether, no, it's the wrong way around. Very interesting, very interesting. Bear with me one moment, because apparently Facebook has fixed this. No way, Facebook has fixed this. Now I have flipped, and hopefully, look at it! Facebook, this is a very big deal for anybody that does Facebook Lives. Today, apparently, or in the last week, Facebook has fixed the flipping of the camera problem. And now I can flip the camera even though I can see you. Oh, this is so amazing. Okay. This is so amazing. Fantastic. Okay. I can show you my show notes and you can read them. How wonderful is that? Okay, how to communicate consciously to create lasting relationships. The next big topic that you need to know about is this: the difference between careful, caring, and careless. If you are familiar with the DeMartini work, you will have heard this a million times before, that actually the only place where conscious communication can actually happen is in a space of caring. Now, I want you to imagine that caring is the middle place that you're in. On the one side, you have careless, and on the other side, you have careful. Now, if you are in a careful state, you're almost walking on eggshells. You're not really saying what you mean. And as a result, it's all about the other person. So I want you to imagine that I'm calling you up for a dinner date. And I say, hey, where do you want to go? And your response is, oh, anywhere you like. Anything is okay by me. What do you want to eat? And I go, I want to eat, I don't know, frog's legs with squid tentacles and I don't know, elephant snot. And you go, okay, that's okay with me. What happens in the long run if you're only careful and you're eggshelling around people? After a while, you will get fed up that the other person will seem selfish to you, and you will slowly but surely become passive-aggressive about the fact that this is all about them and not about you. So that is the place of careful. Careful is eggshelling, and it's not conscious communication. Because if you're being careful, you're not being honest or truthful about how you really feel, and therefore you cannot create honest and truthful conversations. That's not about it. So we're going to move to the other side of the coin. So remember, caring is the middle. Let me show you this again. Caring is in the middle. Careful is the eggshelling, where you're not really being truthful about what you really want and need. That is not conscious communication. And now we're going to the side of careless. So imagine again, I'm going to phone you up and say, hey, where are we going out for dinner? And you say, well, I only eat pasta, so we have to eat pasta. That is a state of being careless, because you're caring less about me and more about you. Guess what happens in the long run? In the long run, I'll probably just never invite you out for dinner again, because it's all about you and you're being very selfish. That is not a space of conscious communication. Okay, the middle place, which is caring. Caring, ing, is all about valuing what you want and what the other person wants. And this sounds incredibly simple, but actually is unbelievably hard to maintain. It is absolutely impossible to maintain if you're running your system on your crocodile and you're just reacting, snapping, instant reaction. It is only possible when you go into your higher owl and you rise above into your prefrontal cortex that is able to see the situation from your higher self at a higher perspective, and that is able to respond from a place of calm, clarity, and consciousness. Okay, so caring is creating a communication that is both about what you need and the other person needs, because otherwise you're just having normal reactivity. And that's what most people have. I'm going to post in the link below a link by John Gottman. He talks a lot about what unconscious communication actually looks like. It's he has beautiful stuff. He says it, the 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse. He calls it contempt. Oh, there's a couple of very good ones. It's, rolling your eyes, not respecting the other person, removing yourself, criticism, contempt. Oh, there are a couple of other ones. He calls them the 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse. I call them unconscious communication, because when you're in your conscious mind and you're in the higher owl, then you're aware that anytime you step in front of the other person, it needs to be something that serves both you and them. But most people just talk about what they want, but also a lot of people only listen with what it means to them and what it means about them. So actually consciously communicating is about connecting the both of you and really understanding, being able to communicate something in the way that the other person can hear it, but also listening, not just with your baggage, not just with your crocodile, but listening with your higher self. Not just talking with your higher self, but also listening with your higher self. Okay, so that's how far we've come. For those of you that have that are joining me lately, hello. It's the Sunday night self-care session. Tonight the topic is how to create conscious communication for lasting relationships. Why is communication so important in lasting relationships? Well, I cannot tell you how many times I have coached individuals or couples where it's all about overcoming a particular difference between the two people. And when I ask the person who comes to coaching with me whether or not they've had a discussion about this, they go, no. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I coach one individual who's at the brink of a relationship breakdown or divorce. And my number one question is have you spoken to the other person about how you feel? And they go, no. And I'm like, that is insanity. The cornerstone of a relationship is the foundation of a lasting, functioning relationship is that you are able to really tell the other person what matters, how you feel, and if something's gone wrong or feels off, that you can have a really open, honest conversation about it. But here's the problem. Most people do not have the capacity or the ability. Now, capacity and ability are 2 different things. A lot of people come to me and you go, I don't understand why that person doesn't talk to me. Well, they might not know how to. Nobody might have sat them down and taught them how to have a conversation. They may not have grown up in an environment where people had open conscious communication, and maybe just as a person they are incapable. You will hear me talk about this a lot in relationships, is not every human being has the capacity to be in a functioning relationship. Everybody always walks around thinking, oh, as long as there's chemistry, we're going to have the foundation for a lasting relationship. Oh, no, 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 no. There is chemistry, compatibility, communication, but then there's also capacity. Some human beings just do not have the capacity for communication, even conscious communication or relationship. Not everybody. Guess what? This is why we date people, so that we can hang out with them for a while and see if they are truly capable of a relationship, because not everybody is. Okay, let's come back around to that thing. So the number one spot that we have in how to create conscious communication for lasting relationships is you need to switch from the reactive crocodile to the wise owl. So it's about getting less snappy and rising into your higher self, your prefrontal cortex. This is the bit of your brain that can see it from a higher perspective. The way that we move from the crocodile to the owl is you must control your breathing. The crocodile has short, sharp breath. The owl is even in and out. If you can't control your consciousness and your higher self in the conversation, you must excuse yourself and leave the room and do it there. And you must excuse yourself and say why you're leaving and when you're coming back. Okay, next up we had careless, caring, and careful. Caring is the only place where you are actually being mindful of the other person's needs and your own needs. Careful is when you're eggshelling around the person. That is not conscious communication. Careless is where you don't give a hoot about the other person. That's the place where most people hang out, and that is where they just snap at the other person. But also usually that's where the other person just listens from the place of their ego, their baggage, ready to pounce back with their crocodile. Okay, we've laid the foundation. What does conscious communication actually require? Conscious communication requires 3 different sections. There's the soft opening, the what, and the why. Okay, I'm going to go through them quickly, but there's a workshop that I'm doing in March, about how to consciously create with your partner for lasting relationships. So there'll be lots more information on that. But right now, I need you to remember from this session that there are 3 different sections in that box of how to consciously communicate. Number 1 is the soft opening, because guess what? How you open the conversation is so unbelievably important, because it lays the land for the rest of the conversation. So the way that you set it up is, number 1, you need to make an appointment with the other person. You probably think that's a little extreme, but that is the only way that you can respectfully begin a situation where you need to talk about something difficult. So what that looks like is, honey, is it okay to speak with you about something now, or would you rather discuss it later? Important fact is here, you don't say exactly what you're going to talk about, because even if you say, I need to talk about money, the other person already goes, I think I'm just going to unpack my crocodile just for safety. No, 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 no. You make an appointment and you say, sweetheart, can I speak with you about something? Would it suit you now or later? Already, you've come at this with this ultimate level of respect. And the other person is like, oh, all right, I guess now. Now is a good time, or tomorrow. Okay, number 1, appointment. You don't talk about what, you just set the appointment. Number 2, you need to just soothe their crocodile as much as you can. So you say, I am not upset or angry. I just would like to share with you something. So I say it in exactly those words. I am not upset or angry. I just would like to share with you something. The reason why you say that, because if you don't say it, naturally, if you come to someone and you say, I need to talk to you about something, guess what's here straight away? The crocodile. It's going to attack you if you just even go, hello. So, number 1, make an appointment. Number 2, I'm not upset or angry. I just want to share with you something. Number 3, you need to say, I know you didn't mean to hurt me or upset me, because otherwise, guess what? Crocodile is right out there. So immediately say, I know you didn't mean to hurt or upset me. Because you know what? Human beings generally are just doing the best they can with their experience and their background and their history. They're not sitting at home with a crystal ball sending you evil thoughts. They're just doing the best they can. And they didn't mean to intentionally hurt you. Very rarely do they mean to intentionally hurt you, especially in a relationship where you're actually rubbing up against each other's baggage and ego and past and wounds. You're just going to run into those things. And so you say, sweetheart, can I make an appointment with you now or later? I just want to share with you something. So I'm not upset. I just would like to share with you something. And number 3, I know you didn't mean to hurt me. Okay, that's the setup. Then we get to a place where you need to give the person instructions. I know that sounds insane, but when a person is already sitting at the gate of unleashing their crocodile, they are not in a space where they can really think about what you're really saying. So it is human behavior where when you tell people, and a lot of marketing gurus will tell you, will back me up on this, is when you tell people what to do, they generally relax a lot more. So I want you to say, I'm just going to talk you through about what happened for me. I would like you to listen. And then at the end, when I'm done, I would love to know what you think. Okay, so you give people instruction. So let's recap. A soft opening. Apart from the fact that a soft opening is also about body language and tone. So instead of saying, hey, I want to talk to you about something, you go, sweetheart, honey. You can also cock your head to the side a little or just kind of move at a side angle from someone. I would like to speak to you about something. Would that suit you now or later? So calm, clear tone of voice. And also appointment. I'm not upset. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. I would like you just to listen. And when I'm finished, I would really love to know what you think. So instruction. We're moving on to the second bit, the middle bit, the what bit. Here's the what bit. Okay, this is the body of your conscious communication. In this body of your conscious communication, I want you to talk about what happened without blame in the third person if you can. So let's say, let's pick something. The other person in your relationship didn't take the trash out. Let's take something simple as that. So instead of saying, you didn't take the trash out, and I think that's absolutely bloody ridiculous, that is not consciously communicating. Because guess what will happen when you say that? The other person's crocodile will come right out and they will go, well, you didn't do this last week either. Will get you absolutely nowhere. So we speak about what happened without blame in the third person. So you say, so when the trash doesn't get taken out in time for the bin people, okay, here comes the next important part. You then need to hook it about how you feel, okay? Because the most important part of a conversation between a couple or a relationship, a friendship with your child, with your family member, is how that made you feel. Because what you say, when the bins don't get taken out in time for the bin collection, you know, that makes me feel really, really anxious. Or that makes me feel whatever it makes you feel. Because it's not about attacking the other person or putting stuff in there that is, you know, where you're trying to make sure that they look like they're the person of the lacking character. The important bit is that you communicate how you feel. Third in line, you need to tell the person what happens when you feel like that. Because some people feel anxious and they do nothing, and some people feel anxious and then their whole day goes to shit. So you say, when the bins don't get taken out for the bin day, that makes me feel really anxious. And then you know what happens. Then I carry that anxiety with me the whole day, and it just kind of festers and carries on. And then I just get absolutely overwhelmed. And when I come home, then I feel completely and utterly disconnected from you. So, number 1, what happened in the third person without blame? Number 2, how did it make you feel? Because that's the most important part of the whole story. Here comes the important bit. I want you to imagine when you're talking to your partner that you are talking to a child, because the hard cold truth is that that person didn't do that thing not because they were evilly brewing some tactic to annoy you, but most of the time the other person doesn't do something because that is a part of their weakness. Now, I talk about weakness and strength a lot in the relationships workshops and the relationship sessions, but the people that we're in a relationship with that we want to shout at and we want to blame and we want to get angry with, usually they're doing something that isn't really natural to them. That doesn't, something, for instance, you might think all the time about taking bins out, but the other person doesn't necessarily constantly think about it. But instead of you coming at it from your strength and go, why the hell can't you remember to take the bloody bins out on bin day? I can't believe blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Crocodile land. We don't want to go there. So when you say, when the bins don't get taken out on bin day, it makes me feel really anxious, then it has a knock-on effect to the rest of the day because I carry that anxiety with me. And then eventually when I come home, I just feel completely disconnected from you. And I want you to say it to that person, not from the perspective of you in your strength and them in their weakness. I want you to imagine that you're speaking to the other person's inner hurt child, because they didn't do this on purpose. They were in their weakness in that moment. Okay, here comes the really important part of the what. I want you to communicate the wish in disguise. A lot of the top relationship coaches and gurus talk about this, that actually underneath the reaction of the crocodile is the wish in disguise. Oh, there's such a beautiful story that I'll tell you quickly. It's a short story. So there's a lady and her husband goes on business trips all the time, really far away business trips to Asia and further, even Australia and things like that. And she's really upset because when her partner goes on these business trips, he really gets focused on business. And then when he gets off the plane, he doesn't call her. This makes her incredibly angry. And this is slowly but surely destroying their relationship. And I said to her straight away, you need to understand what the wish in disguise is and communicate from that place. And she goes, I don't understand. I said, okay, the crocodile is the angry part of you that wants to leave him a voicemail and say, I can't believe you've done it again. You've gone on this business trip and you haven't called me. And now I'm pissed off. I said, okay, why are you pissed off? What is the thing that makes you angry? And she goes, well, he's always doing it. I'm like, no, that's still the crocodile. I said, what really is underneath that anger? And she said, you know what? It's actually because I worry so much about him and I really, really want him to be safe. And I just need to know that he's safe. I said, why on earth aren't you communicating with the wish in disguise? Rather than leaving him a voicemail going, you've done it again. I can't believe you haven't phoned me, even though I've asked you a million times. I said, let's try it. Next time your husband goes on a business trip and he doesn't call you, I want you to go into the wish in disguise and speak onto the voicemail from that place. So she did, and she said, oh, honey, I know you're probably really, really busy. I just wanted to let you know that I would love it if you could send me a sign that you're safe. And I so look forward to hearing from you about all of your adventure, and I so miss you and can't wait for you to get home. You know what happened the next day? An entire bouquet of roses, and he started to call her from that day onwards, magically, without being prompted to do so ever again. Because when you start communicating with a wish in disguise, it comes much more natural. Okay, let's recap. The bulk of the middle, the bulk of the what you're wanting to communicate. You need to say what happened, but not to blame the other person. In the third person, when the bins weren't taken out, you need to make sure that there is no blame and that you talk to the other person as if you were speaking to their inner child. Then you need to communicate how it made you feel and what knock-on effect that had for you for the rest of the day. You need to round off that whole middle section of conscious communication with your wish in disguise. So with the bins, it's like, honey, I just wish that we could be a real team and that we could work together on the house chores so that everybody wins out of the situation. All right. We've done the middle part. Now we go to the end spurt. I love this end spurt. Let me tell you why. In the end spurt, and this is a huge topic in psychology and personal development, it's talking about why, the big why. So you've probably read the books by Simon Sinek. Beautiful book. He said it starts with why. I'll post it in the comments below. There's lots of stuff on YouTube as well that you can look up. When you are in a conscious communication and you haven't placed a why in the conversation, the other person's brain is going, why should I do this? Here comes the humdinger. I want you in the third section, the why section, to communicate to this person why sorting this out is so unbelievably important to you. And I call this section the Martin Luther King I had a dream bit. And in that place, I want you to start to talk about and think about why this person is so important to you and why a good flow of energy between the two of you is important. So you can start with, let's say you're communicating with a friend and you say to that friend, you know, when you didn't call me, oh gosh, you know, I just got really worried. And then, you know, I got really worried that I'd done something to you or upset you. And really, you know, you're so important to me and our friendship is so precious to me. You can also do that in a relationship, by the way. You can say, you know, I love you so much and I so deeply appreciate you being in my life. And that's why I so desperately and consciously and deeply want to communicate with you and sort this out between us, because my dream is that we can get to a place where we are real, you know, we've really got each other's back and we can really be there for each other and support each other and lift each other to our highest strength. Yeah. Imagine having a conversation in your relationship like that. The other person, of course, the other person is on board. Of course they want to be part of your dream. So you must, I call it the I have a dream Martin Luther King. You need to communicate in exactly those words. You know, it is my wish, it is my dream, it is my, whatever you want to call it, use those words and then pull the person into the conversation. You can also say, you know, I have a vision of this family being a cohesive unit where we all work together and just produce this amazing, I don't know, home life or whatever you want to call it. So the why is all about creating the dream and the vision. Okay, so we had soft opening, the middle part, the what, the end of the why. Now you need to talk about the how. How are you going to fix it? And here's a slight difference depending on whether you're talking to a man or a woman. So I'm assuming that most of you are ladies on this call. So you are going to first of all use the example to speak to a man. So when you speak to a man, and by the way, this has nothing to do with feminism or any kind of rights that are not equal. I'm a huge supporter of that. This is only because men's and women's brains work differently. Okay? That's why when you are having a conversation with a man, generally, not always, but the male brain is geared towards solution and fixing things. So that's also why at the beginning, in the opening, you said, I would just like to tell you about what I'm talking about. And then, you know, I would like you to listen. And at the end, I will ask you about how we can make this work. Because the man in your conversation will constantly be wanting to jump in and fix the situation, because that is what the male brain generally wants to do. So here, if you're talking to a man, do not present the solutions. Do not present the solutions. So at the end of the why, you then turn to him and you say, what do you think we should do about this? That immediately activates his solution brain and also steps him into his divine masculine. If you are a woman communicating with another woman, you can then already present solutions that you might think is a good idea. So for instance, you can say, you know, I've thought about this and, you know, maybe we could, let's say I'm talking about a friend, maybe we could call each other regularly on Tuesdays. Or maybe we can even eat out the first Saturday of every month. What do you think we should do? Okay, so if you're talking to a man, Don't say what you think we should do. Let him first come to the table, what he thinks you could do. And then you, as the woman, say, that suits me or that doesn't suit me, because that is the interaction between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I'm going to do another huge Sunday night self-care session on the differences between men and women, not about anybody being better than anybody else, but that on the whole, not in every case, men's and women's brains think slightly different. I'm also going to post in the comments below brilliant stuff on YouTube. There's a guy called Mark Ganga. He has a program called Laugh Yourself to a Happy Marriage. And there is one particular clip on there that talks all about the differences between the male and the female brain. And also, if you want to know more about the divine masculine and the divine feminine, Alison A. Armstrong is your lady. She is just the absolute powerhouse of bridging the gap between the masculine and the feminine, which is not always in men and women. It's not always, so there's men can also be feminine, and they are generally. We all have a mix, and that mix comes to the surface. So for instance, when I'm in a teaching mode, I'm actually using quite a lot of my masculine. When I'm in my divine feminine, then I'm more softer, I'm more receptive. We're going to talk a lot more about that further down the line. Okay, so we need to wrap this whole thing up, and I need to then turn the camera to see all your questions. So let's go at this again. There is a difference between reacting and responding. The way that you bridge from one to the other in the immediate instance is breath. Then there's a difference between being careless about the other person or being careful around them. You need to come into a place where you give equal importance to your needs and the other person's needs. That's where you create conscious communication. Then the three main bits of conscious communication are: you need a soft opening that has making an appointment, saying that you're not upset, that you know the person didn't mean to hurt you, and giving them instructions on what you would like them to do. You want them to listen and then respond afterwards. The main body of what you're going to say. You're going to talk about what happened in the third person without blame. You're going to speak to them as if you're speaking to their inner child, because guess what? They didn't mean to upset you, and they're probably in their weakest element, and they're trying to do the best they can, coming from that place of that wounded inner child. You need to communicate how you feel. That's the really, really, really important part, because if your partner doesn't know how you feel, and guess what? Even if you've known this person for 20, 30, 40 years, I guarantee you, you will not know how they feel. You're constantly making assumptions about the other person's feelings. So in conscious communication, you need to tell the other person how that thing made you feel. Then you need to tell them about the knock-on effect. Well, when you didn't, when the bins weren't taken out, then I felt completely anxious, and it had the knock-on effect that I came home and I felt really, really disconnected with you. The last one in the main body is the wish in disguise. You must communicate with the wish in disguise, because the crocodile is just the surface. I am angry you didn't phone me. Actually, the wish in disguise is I really want you to be safe, and I worry so much that you're not safe. Okay, the why. The Martin Luther King number 3 is I have a dream. Why do you want to fix this? Why do you want to be in a relationship with this person? Why is this person important to you? And why is it so unbelievably important to you that you fix this? Just start thinking about saying, like, my dream, my hope, my wish is. That way you're pulling the other person into your combined vision and focus. And then the how. So we talked about the differences, that if you are a woman speaking to a man, let them present the solutions first. Let them step into their divine masculine. And then you can, like the queen that we always talk about, the royal queen of the divine feminine, go, yeah, that suits me and that doesn't suit me. If you're a woman talking to another woman, you can present solutions straight away and say, well, how do you feel about that? That is my wrap up of exactly how to communicate consciously. I'm going to tell you, just by understanding this conceptually, ain't nothing going to change in your life. What you really need to do is either come on the workshop or sit down with me one-on-one and actually map out an exact conversation. Actually talk about something that you haven't talked about, that you need to talk about. This generally takes an hour. I do it over Skype or on a phone call, where we map out exactly when you're going to go speak to this person, how you're going to speak to that person, what you're going to say to that person, and how you are going to manage the fallout of that conversation. Because, as we said before, not everybody is capable of conscious communication. And you might set all of this up perfectly, and the other person goes, yeah, what do I care? Because not everybody is on board to actually have a consciously connected relationship. Some people just don't want that. Not everybody is here for the deep connection in a relationship, but also the other person may not, because of their trauma, because of their history, because of their childhood, have the capacity to actually connect to their inner self and connect to you deeply. All right, that is it from me for today's Sunday night self-care session. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know any questions you have. I currently can't see your questions. That's very funny. Let me see how I get. So this is new. This is new on Facebook. I don't know how I get back to the questions. So Facebook has changed their whole thing. But that is, no, I can't change it. I can't see it. All right. That's very funny. Right. Well, I'm going to answer any questions that you do have. Oh, there we go. Hi, Emily. I know it feels like a huge thing I need to learn. I know, sweetheart. Please don't feel overwhelmed. This is absolutely normal. Nobody taught any of us how to do this. I always chuckle, you know, when I got married, we got married in Scotland, and I remember standing in the church going, so we have car insurance for the trip in the car, we have holiday insurance for the honeymoon, we have cake insurance and wedding venue insurance, and nobody ever taught us how to insure the marriage. Nobody ever sits any of us down and says, this is what it takes to be in a relationship. This is how to communicate. Then, of course, you know, the bigger topic that I'm always on about is self-love, because self-love and conscious communication actually belong together. Because if you don't have self-love, guess what's going to happen? You're always going to walk around in that careful arena, being on eggshells, not really wanting to connect with your inner feelings. And if you're not emotionally available to yourself, you start to attract emotionally unavailable relationships on the outside. And so actually learning how to love yourself and learning how to communicate consciously, which is part of the self-love core, you know, they really go hand in hand together. And I know it seems daunting, but once you actually map it out, you write out a conversation and you go into that conversation, you will be amazed how differently people respond. Because if you come to the conversation in your place of vulnerable self, vulnerable open self, the other person generally can also meet you there. That is all I have for this evening. Thank you so much. I'll hang around in the comments a little while, so if you have any questions, please type them in the comments. Also, if you don't want to type them in public, please send me a private message. I always chat to anybody and everybody about what's going on. You'll have a free 30-minute call with me if you want to connect and chat about something in particular that you're going through. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for supporting me on these Sunday night self-care sessions, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Lots of love. Take care.